Isn't it funny how the people closest to us can see what we refuse to see ourselves? They watch, they wait, they care, and yet we wander through life blind to it. We dismiss the gestures, the words, the quiet little acts that scream more than any confession ever could. We ignore the signals because denial is easier, because facing the truth, now that's complicated. The irony is delicious. Everyone around you knows. Everyone except you. You're the last one to the party, the only guest still fumbling in the dark, pretending the lights aren't on. And all the while, the person who loves you most is right there, smiling at your confusion, waiting for the moment you finally notice. You ever notice how the people who care about you the most tend to be invisible to your own eyes? It's fascinating. Really. You walk around thinking you're in the center of your own world, convinced you're the only one feeling, the only one noticing, the only one capable of love or understanding. And while you're busy narrating your own story, there's someone else quietly inhabiting the spaces around you, making choices, showing up, and leaving breadcrumbs that scream their care louder than any declaration ever could. But you don't see it. You can't. It's almost comical, the way your mind refuses to notice what's obvious to everyone else. Love hides in plain sight. The gestures that seem small, the words that seem casual, the actions that seem routine, they're the language of devotion. And you miss it because you're looking for fireworks, for overt displays, for dramatic confessions that never come. You want proof that feels like a headline, a performance, a spotlight. But real love isn't loud. Real love doesn't need an audience. It doesn't compete with noise or chaos. It's patient, it's subtle, it's persistent. And your eyes, your mind, your defenses, well, they're tuned to miss the quiet persistence. And isn't that just human? We're trained to overlook the obvious. We're conditioned to doubt what doesn't shout, to question what doesn't challenge us, to ignore what makes us feel vulnerable. If something doesn't jolt you awake, your mind assumes it doesn't exist. That's why you walk past the acts of love scattered around your life like confetti, never pausing to notice the effort, the attention, the heart in motion. You've made your own blindness a comfort zone, a shield against feelings that might require risk, courage, or honesty. Think about the patterns, the small check-ins that go unanswered, the way someone remembers things you've long forgotten, the way they give you space when you need it, but never abandon the space that belongs to you. These aren't coincidences. These aren't habits formed out of convenience. These are acts of devotion, quiet and steady, waiting for you to pay attention. And yet you don't. You look past them. You interpret them as ordinary, unremarkable, irrelevant. You do this because noticing them would force a confrontation with something much larger than yourself. It's easier, isn't it? Easier to ignore the truth than to face it. Easier to convince yourself that nobody cares, that love is a myth, that the world is indifferent. Easier to maintain the illusion that you're the only one moving, the only one feeling, the only one capable of connection. Easier to keep believing that you're untouchable by the quiet devotion surrounding you. But this ease is deceptive. It's a trap, a slow fade into a life where the people who could elevate you, support you, love you, remain unnoticed, unrecognized, unappreciated. And all the while, they keep showing up. They persist, they endure, they exist in ways you've trained yourself not to perceive. And here's the delicious irony of it all. The world sees it before you do. Everyone else sees it. Friends, acquaintances, even strangers notice the devotion you've been blind to. They recognize the care, the consistency, the patience, the sacrifices that you've dismissed as ordinary. And that's what makes it maddening. It's not hidden. It's not secret. It's right there. Everyone else knows. Everyone else can see it clearly, except you. You, who are meant to feel it most, who are meant to be awake to it, remain in the dark, oblivious, fumbling, unaware that love has been moving around you like air. Love doesn't always demand acknowledgement. Love doesn't always require recognition. It moves anyway, silently, steadily, regardless of whether you notice it. And in some ways, that's beautiful. But in other ways, it's terrifying. Because the moment you do notice it, truly notice it, you realize the depth of what you've been blind to. You realize the effort, the patience, the intention, the endurance that has been poured into your life quietly, persistently, inevitably. And you can't unsee it. You can't unhear it. You can't unfeel the truth that's been sitting patiently at the edges of your perception, waiting for you to finally open your eyes. And isn't that the cruelest joke? That the one thing you need most, the one thing that has been giving itself to you consistently, persistently, is the very thing you refuse to recognize. That while everyone else is nodding, smiling, acknowledging the truth, you are fumbling in your own darkness, blind to the devotion that surrounds you, blind to the person who loves you most, the person whose entire being has been waiting for you to finally see them. You ever notice how love is hardest to see when it's closest to you? That's the cruelest trick of all. You're searching, always searching, scanning the world for proof, for drama, for signs that scream their existence in ways you can't miss. Meanwhile, the love that matters most has been right there the whole time, moving in silence, acting in ways too subtle for your frantic eyes to catch. And you ignore it, don't you? You ignore it because it's easier to deny than to confront. It's easier to pretend it's not there than to admit what you might feel, or what you might owe, or what it might demand of you. Denial is comforting. Awareness is dangerous. People express care in the quietest ways imaginable. A text you barely notice, a check-in that feels routine, a smile that seems ordinary. These are the things. You expect grand gestures, declarations that explode into your life like fireworks, confessions that make the earth shake under your feet. But real love doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't stage its arrival with spectacle or chaos. It simply exists. It persists. It keeps showing up, quietly, without a contract, without a guarantee, without fanfare, and you keep overlooking it because your mind is trained to expect drama, not devotion. And isn't that the irony? You think love is easy to recognize. You think it wears a label, makes itself loud and obvious, asks for acknowledgement, but it doesn't. The very things that show devotion are the ones you've been trained to ignore. The routine, the presence, the patience, the small sacrifices that go unnoticed because they blend so seamlessly into the ordinary. You don't notice because ordinary doesn't register as extraordinary. You fail to see it because you're looking for something your ego can measure, something dramatic enough to validate your own fantasies, something explosive enough to satisfy your need for confirmation. And meanwhile, someone has been keeping vigil over your life. They've been present in ways you can't articulate. They've remembered the little things you forgot, anticipated the needs you haven't even admitted to yourself, endured your moods, your whims, your blindness. And all the while, you keep thinking the silence, the absence of spectacle, means the love isn't there. It's there. It's always been there. It's right in the patterns you ignore, right in the corners of your days you never notice, right in the background of your life, persistent, unwavering, undeniable, if only you'd stop looking elsewhere for it. But your mind refuses. Oh, it refuses with a vengeance. It tells you that noticing would be complicated, that acknowledgement would force responsibility, That recognizing love would require vulnerability, risk, a confrontation with truths you'd rather bury. So you invent reasons. You invent excuses. You tell yourself, it's not real. It's not that deep. It's just friendship. It's coincidence. I imagined it. And that's exactly what makes it brilliant. You are the last to see it. And that's exactly how it was meant to be. And here's the delicious cruelty. Everyone else sees it. Friends, strangers, even casual observers notice the care you cannot perceive. They point it out. They laugh about it. They shake their heads in disbelief, but you keep fumbling in the dark. You remain oblivious to the devotion that has been moving around you like air, unnoticed but essential. You are blind to the constancy, blind to the intention, blind to the patience that could have saved you from so much loneliness if only you'd seen it sooner. And the trap isn't malicious. It doesn't need to be. Its genius lies in your own blindness. It hides in subtlety, in routine, in quiet gestures. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't demand confession. It waits. It endures. And you, busy looking for the fireworks, the confessions, the dramatic displays, keep walking past the very thing that has been there all along. And so the cycle continues. You keep missing it. You keep overlooking it. You keep doubting it. And it keeps showing up, silent, steady, patient. It's frustrating, isn't it? Maddening, almost poetic. The one thing that matters, the one love that is undeniably true, is also the one thing you refuse to acknowledge. You ignore it because denial is comfortable, because recognition is terrifying, because seeing it would force you to confront your own blindness and the choices you've made while you were asleep. And all the while, that love moves, persistent and unyielding, waiting for the moment you finally lift your eyes and finally notice. You ever feel that strange pull in your chest? That quiet little tug that you try to ignore every single day? It's there, isn't it? That unease that nags at the edges of your awareness, that whisper that something is off. Most people call it anxiety, stress, overthinking. But that's just a polite label to dismiss what's real. That little feeling isn't your enemy, it's the plea. It's the part of reality tapping on your shoulder, trying desperately to get your attention while you scroll, pretending it doesn't exist. It's the part of you that knows something important has been in front of you all along, something you've refused to see. Someone whose care has been consistent, patient, unwavering, and yet, for reasons your pride or fear can't explain, you keep turning away. And why do we do that? Why do we hide from the obvious? Because facing it would require courage. Because it would force a confrontation with all the things we've been avoiding. Vulnerability, expectation, responsibility, admission. It's easier to distract ourselves with work, with noise, with the endless hum of a world that insists we remain busy so we won't notice what's really there. But that uneasy feeling, that quiet tug, keeps returning. It doesn't tire. It doesn't quit. It waits for you to pause, to acknowledge it, to finally recognize that the love and devotion you've been blind to isn't a trick, isn't coincidence, isn't a random accident of circumstance. It's real. You dismiss it because you've been trained to see love as something grand, something loud, something performative. And you ignore the quiet, patient, persistent acts that require no celebration because they're so ordinary you fail to recognize their extraordinary power. Someone remembers what you forgot, cares when no one else does, shows up when the world isn't watching, and you think it's nothing. You've been taught to overlook it because noticing it would challenge the narrative you've built around yourself, that story where you're alone, where nobody understands, where nothing lasts, where love is elusive and rare. And here's the irony. The moment you start listening to that tug, that plea, that whisper, the entire world seems to shift. You notice the subtle acts, the way someone waits for your moods to settle, the way they anticipate what you need without asking, the way they remain present even when you are absent in spirit. It's there in the little details. A message sent at just the right time. A question asked that reveals deep attention. A smile that says more than any confession ever could. And you think it's small, insignificant, unworthy of acknowledgement. But those small things are enormous. They are the evidence of consistent, patient, real devotion, the kind of love that can't be faked because it's woven into the fabric of someone's attention and care. And what do we do in response? We complicate it. We twist it in our minds. We invent reasons it doesn't matter. It's just a coincidence. I must be imagining it. They care about everyone. We tell ourselves these stories because they protect us from what we might feel if we admit the truth. If we allow ourselves to see it clearly, we might have to feel it. And feeling it could mean vulnerability. It could mean reciprocation. It could mean change. And we fear change, don't we? Even when it's the change that could save us. The change that could open our eyes to the care we've been missing. The change that could finally make us awake instead of blind. And yet the tug persists. It doesn't go away because love doesn't quit. Not this kind of love. The kind that is patient, that is steady, that is unwavering, keeps existing, keeps showing up, keeps waiting for you to finally lift your eyes, for you to finally open the door that has been in front of you all along. And the more you resist, the more obvious it becomes. You can try to ignore it, rationalize it, pretend it isn't happening, but the evidence piles up, and eventually you can't hide from it anymore. The realization comes crashing in with a clarity that is both terrifying and undeniable. Everyone else knew. Everyone else could see it. Everyone else witnessed it. Everyone except you. And that, of course, is the cruel part, isn't it? That the one thing you need, the one presence that has been consistent, patient, enduring, is the very thing your own mind has refused to recognize. The tug in your chest, the pull at your awareness, is your chance to wake up. It's your invitation to stop walking blind, to stop missing what's right in front of you, to finally see, finally feel, finally accept that someone's love has been real all along, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to finally respond, waiting for you to open your eyes. You ever think about why we ignore the obvious? Why we walk right past the people who care about us most, as if their presence were just scenery in the background of our lives? It's not cruelty. It's not malice. It's the mind doing what it's trained to do, protecting you from vulnerability, protecting you from risk, protecting you from truth. Comfort. That's the word. We cloak ourselves in it, build walls around ourselves in the name of stability, convince ourselves we're safe as long as nothing shakes the little bubble we've wrapped ourselves in. And the cruelest irony is that the one thing we're avoiding, the love that surrounds us, is exactly what could break us out of that bubble. Comfort is insidious. It feels harmless. It whispers, don't rock the boat. Don't challenge the pattern. Don't ask for more than you have. And so we comply. We settle into routines, into habits, into the predictable. We tell ourselves we're content, that this is enough, that we're fine. And meanwhile, the love that's been patient all along waits. It waits for you to look up, to notice, to accept that someone has been giving their heart quietly, persistently, without needing recognition, without needing proof, without needing a stage. But comfort keeps your eyes down, keeps your hands busy, keeps your mind entertained, keeps your heart asleep. You see it everywhere, don't you? in the way you avoid someone's gaze that's lingered too long, in the way you shrug off acts of care as coincidence, in the way you rationalize absence as normal. It's easier that way. Easier to ignore than to admit that maybe, just maybe, someone has been giving themselves to you in ways you haven't allowed yourself to see. Easier to tell yourself you're fine than to confront what recognition might demand. Attention, emotion, responsibility, reciprocity. Comfort is a cage, and you've built it with your own hands. And the trap of comfort is subtle. It doesn't shout. It doesn't slam doors. It wraps itself in cushions and routines and habits that feel safe. You defend it without realizing it. You decorate it, arrange it, polish it, as if it were precious. You even convince yourself that those who notice or act differently are reckless or naive, as if your cage were the pinnacle of wisdom. And the longer you sit in it, the heavier it gets. The walls close in slowly, imperceptibly, but inevitably, and the one thing that could tear them down, the acknowledgement of someone's quiet devotion, remains invisible to you. Think about the moments you've missed, the small kindnesses that went unnoticed, the gestures that could have shifted everything if you'd only recognized them. They're not spectacular. They're not loud. They're not designed to make you look. That's why you don't. You look for signs that feel dramatic, that match your narrative of love, that are loud enough to be undeniable. But real love doesn't need to shout. It waits, patiently, persistently, consistently. And you don't see it because you've mistaken comfort for sufficiency, calm for completion, routine for satisfaction. And isn't it maddening when you finally glimpse it? That flash of awareness that someone has been present, steadfast, giving, caring, while you've been building walls to keep yourself safe. It's terrifying because it forces you to admit your own blindness, your own neglect, your own refusal to feel. It's liberating because it shows you the doorway out, if only you choose to take it. But comfort is persuasive. It whispers still, stay here. It's easier. You're safe. You don't need to face anything. And so the loop continues. You shrug. You turn away. You pretend it's nothing. And the one thing that could change everything remains just out of reach. Comfort kills subtly. Not with violence, but with stillness. Not with pain, but with inattention. Not with force, but with surrender. And the tragedy of it is that you built it. You defended it. You believed in it. And every day that passes inside that cage, every day that love goes unnoticed, every day that recognition is delayed, the longer you drift from what could awaken you, from the connection that could transform you, from the person who has been giving their presence patiently, persistently, completely, without you even noticing. And that is the cruel joke of comfort. The very thing you cling to for safety is the same thing that blinds you to the most meaningful truths in your life, the same thing that keeps the love that matters most invisible, the same thing that keeps your heart asleep while the world outside waits. Ready, patient, and persistent. You ever notice how the things that hurt us the most are always disguised as harmless? The most dangerous traps aren't loud. They don't come with flashing signs. They don't warn you before they strike. No, the trap comes in subtle doses, in small choices you think don't matter, in routines you call normal, in habits you shrug off. And that's exactly why it works, because you're not running from it. You're walking right into it, thinking the path is safe. You think you're in control, that nothing is really at stake, that love and care are always obvious and obvious enough to demand recognition. But the truth is, the trap doesn't need to demand anything. It feeds quietly on what you ignore, on what you refuse to notice, on the small, persistent gestures that would change everything if you only opened your eyes. The trap thrives on denial. Every time you tell yourself, "It's nothing, I'm fine, I don't need to pay attention," you give it power. Every time you overlook a message, a presence, a gesture, you hand it another piece of you. The trap doesn't attack with noise or pain. It attacks with invisibility, with subtlety, with ordinary moments you dismiss as irrelevant. And the cruelest thing is, the harm is cumulative. One day, you realize that the person who loved you all along has been sidelined in your mind, ignored in your perception, and the space you've left for them has quietly shrunk because of your blindness. You expect love to be loud, grand, undeniable. You expect confessions, fireworks, chaos, disruption. But the love that matters most is quiet, persistent, woven into ordinary days and small details. It doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need your attention to exist. And that's why it's dangerous to ignore. You think you're safe because you haven't lost it, because it hasn't demanded recognition, because it hasn't forced you to confront it. But what you don't see is that every moment you ignore it, every time you rationalize it away, every time you pretend it's ordinary, you are letting the trap grow stronger, letting the opportunity slip further from your grasp, letting the cost accumulate silently while you sleep. The signs are everywhere if you look closely. A text that shows they remembered what you forgot. A presence that shows up when you feel invisible. Patience when you feel impatient. Gestures that whisper devotion even when you can't hear it. These aren't coincidences. These aren't accidents. These are the fingerprints of someone's love written into your life. But you can't see it. Not because it isn't there, but because your mind is busy protecting you from truth. Because recognition would force you to confront vulnerability, risk, responsibility, emotion, action. And so the trap thrives in the space you carve out for ignorance, in the silence you maintain in your own awareness. And the irony is delicious, isn't it? Everyone else sees it. Everyone else notices the care, the patience, the devotion. Friends, strangers, even casual observers recognize what you refuse to see. And that makes it maddening. You're the last one to understand. The one walking through the room, blind, fumbling, unaware of the love that has been persistent, steady, real. You are blind to the very thing that could awaken you from monotony, that could break the cycle, that could redefine what you thought was possible. And the trap knows it. The trap knows your mind prefers ignorance. The trap knows denial feels safer than awareness. And the beauty of this trap is its patience. It doesn't demand confrontation. It doesn't force awakening. It waits. It endures. It persists. And if you continue to ignore it, it becomes invisible, habitual, accepted. You adapt to it, accommodate it, decorate your life around the absence of recognition. You convince yourself it's normal, it's harmless, it's safe. And every day that passes, the trap feeds on your unawareness, consuming the potential for connection, for love, for awakening, and leaving you quietly, comfortably numb, blind to the most meaningful thing in your life. The danger isn't in the absence of love. The danger isn't in someone's failure to speak or act loudly. The danger is in your refusal to see. The danger is in your blindness, your denial, your comfort in ignorance. And every time you ignore it, rationalize it, dismiss it as ordinary, you feed the trap further, letting it grow in the gaps of your attention, in the spaces where awareness should be, in the moments where acknowledgement could transform everything. And that, in the end, is the cruelest part. The trap isn't outside you. It isn't attacking you. It's in your own blindness. And the very love you need most exists quietly, persistently, patiently, waiting for you to finally open your eyes. You ever feel that moment when reality stops being comfortable? When something tugs at your chest and you can't quite ignore it anymore? That's the crossroads. That's the moment when you can either keep walking through life blind, pretending everything is fine, or finally look up and see what's been right in front of you the whole time. Most people blink. Most people step back. Most people close the door, scroll past, convince themselves it doesn't matter. And that's exactly what the trap wants. It doesn't need to cage you. It only needs you to cooperate. Only needs you to remain numb, to keep turning away, to keep believing the illusion that love, attention, care, presence, they are all invisible, irrelevant, non-existent. And every time you do, you hand over another piece of yourself. But this isn't ordinary. Something inside you notices. That tug, that quiet tension, that feeling that something important is being ignored. It's more than coincidence. It's the plea, the signal, the truth you've been avoiding, wrapped in the ordinary, disguised as subtlety, disguised as routine, disguised as silence. That's how love works when it matters. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply exists. And you, trained to look for spectacle, miss it. You miss the patience, the consistency, the small but unwavering acts that carry entire universes of devotion. You are blind, and the world outside sees it. Everyone else sees it. But you are the last one to notice. The trap is clever. It thrives on your inattention, your denial, your excuses. It knows that awareness requires courage, that recognition requires vulnerability, that understanding requires confrontation with truths you've been avoiding your whole life. It's easier to ignore it, easier to pretend it's nothing, easier to scroll, to work, to distract yourself, to stay in the bubble you've built for your comfort. And you comply because comfort is seductive, because ease feels safe, because seeing reality, seeing the care, seeing the love forces you to act, and acting is risky. Acting requires honesty, and honesty threatens the cozy lie you've been living. But love doesn't wait forever. It exists, patient, persistent, enduring, even when ignored. It's written into the patterns of your life, in gestures you overlooked, in attention you mistook for coincidence, in presence you treated as ordinary. And the crossroads, the tug inside you, is the chance to wake up, to open your eyes, to recognize that the person who has loved you, who has been present, who has been patient and steady, is not a fantasy, not a figment, not a trick. It's real. And recognition is dangerous, yes, terrifying even. Because when you notice, you can't go back to pretending. You can't go back to ignorance. You can't unsee what's been there all along. And isn't that the cruelest, most exhilarating part? That you've been blind to the thing that matters most. That the person who has been loving you doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to prove themselves, and yet their presence is undeniable if only you choose to see. You've been fumbling in the dark while everyone else has witnessed it. Friends, strangers, the world, they know what you refuse to acknowledge. And now the crossroads presses on you. It demands nothing, but it offers everything. Awareness, connection, truth, the chance to break free from numbness, from loops, from the quiet trap of your own denial. And the trap isn't cruel because it attacks. It's cruel because it waits. It waits for your cooperation, for your blindness, for your hesitation, for your fear. It waits while love exists quietly in the same room, in the same moments, in the same patterns, ready to be noticed, ready to be received, ready to transform you, if only you lift your eyes and acknowledge it. The crossroads is terrifying because it leaves the choice entirely in your hands. You can walk forward into the discomfort, into awareness, into action, or you can step back, close the door, and let the trap continue. Let ignorance persist. Let love exist quietly while you sleep through it. And isn't that the point? The moment isn't about guarantees. It isn't about certainty. It isn't about knowing that everything will be perfect if you finally wake up. It's about noticing. It's about choosing. It's about refusing to let comfort, denial, and fear keep you blind any longer. The crossroads doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It only shows you the truth. And the choice, the responsibility, the courage, it's yours. To see, to feel, to act, to finally recognize that someone's love has been patient, persistent, unwavering, and real all along, waiting for you to wake up and finally notice.